He's barely going to keep it on the racing surface.
I don't know that we'll see a pass here as they go
A deep dive on the brakes. Here comes the 680 to the inside.
By 7 of a second. I can't believe what we just saw.
Clark County, Nevada sits about 15 miles northeast of the casinos, hotels, and glamour of Las Vegas. While many consider a trip to the desert a vacation, the drivers here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway will utter a different tale. High speeds, variable banking, and a bumpy surface all coincide to create an entertaining, however challenging race. Tonight, the ERSCA PristineAuction.com series hits Sin City for Black Flags Matter 200. As tonight, we have just 2 races left, including tonight's race, to determine our playoff lineup here. As we again do hit Sim TV for the ERSCA Pristine.com series, we're getting ready for 133 laps worth of action. It's going to be a little bit of a different scenario here in the booth tonight. It is myself, Corey Silva. My colleague Brandon Kreutz will be in the booth within 15 to 20 minutes, with his real life profession, kind of an emergency call, but he will be here to join us in the near future. But as usual, folks, we are here for qualifying right now, just getting ready to conclude the session and figure out where these guys will be starting in tonight's efforts. We'll pull it up to the left side of your display right now, and Chuck Sweeting thus far doing a great job and being on the provisional pole thus far. Haven't really seen that out of him so far, so couple things you will notice different. Kyle Heyer, obviously our owner here at Sim TV, did a lot of work to update the overlays, so you'll see a lot of cool nifty features in some new animations, new graphics, trying to give you the best experience possible in terms of viewing. And you'll see that on the top right of your display right now, some stats of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and some historical facts about it, as we do start to see who is on track now and still getting ready to see where they can go in terms of starting position. Richard Lafferty, 6th on the starting sheet so far, but we'll see if he is indeed going to stay there. Actually gets bumped down to 7th. So checking out other drivers, Johnny Thomas on track now. We will have Johnny Thomas. We're going to try it again. Last week it worked, and we got some very good results from it in terms of fan participation and fan feedback, but a little technical errors. But we think we will be able to continue the virtual in-car here on Sim TV. So Johnny Thomas just completing his qualifying session, so we'll follow up with him during the race. I think we'll be able to sustain that and hopefully expand it to other drivers as the season does progress into the playoffs. And here we are with Tate Lytle on the racetrack right now, so people realize who've watched just a couple weeks in a row now that, Tate Lytle has not had the results he typically has been accustomed to over the course of the season. He's had a bunch of DNFs and, a couple race cars in a row, both at Darlington and at Pocono. But we do expect him to, get himself some good recovery here. Obviously still in good playoff contention with some wins earlier this season, both at Bristol and at Dover. So kind of the concrete master, it so seems, for Tate Lytle. And as his lap does go on the board, first lap 10th on the scoring pylon, but he may get this last lap in. I'm not quite sure. That is the timer. Nope, he will not get lap 2 in. So it looks like that will conclude it for qualifying, and these guys will get themselves situated onto the starting lineup. So let me go ahead and give it to you. The SimTV starting lineup here tonight from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. On tonight's front row, a couple people changed up last second. Chris Wright in the number 24 machine took the top position away. Scott Crump, position number 2. Chuck Sweeting, he will drop back to 3rd. Still an excellent starting spot for Chuck Sweeting. Probably the best one I think we've seen from him this far in the 2020 campaign, alongside Gerald Campbell. And then we have Joshua Neal and Joe Francis, 5th and 6th. Chris Worrell and Joshua Adams. And Josh Adams, a name we expect to see at the front of this race before it ends. He's going to roll off in 8th. Robert Hill Jr. and then when we just mentioned, Tate Lytle rolling off 9th and rounding out your top 10 starting positions. 11th through and 12th, we will find Richard Lafferty and Johnny Thomas, our virtual in-car driver this evening. Damien Leininger rolling off in 13th, and then Kenny Lowry will complete row number 7. Nick Massey, a pretty rare starting position for him back there in the mid-teens. We'll see if he can work his way up through the field over the 133 laps. Sean Dias in 16th. Dylan Thomas and Tyler Riggs 17th and 18th, and then Zisha Endura and Kyle Lowry 19th and 20th, and we'll scroll through the remaining positions on the bottom of the display. But a couple things we do want to mention. I keep saying we because remember, Brandon will be in here as soon as he realistically can. He actually works at a fire department, so quick call he just got, but as soon as they're able to get rid of that, well, sustain that situation, he'll be on his way. But I do want to bring up our keys to the race here at Las Vegas. Keys to the race. Tire Wear just talked to Johnny Thomas a little bit earlier before the race actually went live, and Johnny Thomas said Tire Wear is absolutely abysmal. Fuel load should be about 45 laps, but these guys are, if they drive too aggressively, the right front, we might see some right front tire failures within the first 35 laps of this race. Pit strategy, because of that, is going to be very big, because stay out too long, you'll put yourself in the fence with a blown tire. Pit too early may work out to hurt you, depending on who else does what. Then again, watch the bumps. Turns 1 and 2 here at Las Vegas, very bumpy, so you do have to be very careful on your navigation through them. But we are on the back straightaway here at Las Vegas, here on SimTV. Corey Silva calling it by myself for now. I will have some help a little bit later, but we're going to do the best we can and show you the first 134 laps of this race and see if we can have a better race than we had last week. It was a very good race at Darlington last week. Last 30 laps kind of turned into a wreck fest. I think these guys will clean it up this week and put on a good show. Let's find out together. Chris Wright in the number 24, Scott Crump in the number 51. They're going to lead it down off of corner number 4. Pace car is going to take the hard left into the pit road. Here we are getting ready. Barney has the green flag in his hand, and he's going to wave it. He's going to wave it. There it is. Green flag. We're racing here in Las Vegas. Entering corner number 1 here, huge jump by the 24 is a pretty slow start, it seems like, for the majority of the field here. I tell you, Scott Crump did not get going there on the outside line. Chuck Sweeting in the number 27, he's going to take that second position. Here comes a battle for third. Is the 51 going to lose it to Gerald Campbell? That outside is not going to be ideal from what I've been told, but we'll see if these guys are going to be able to figure it out and make that line run. 27 will sustain that outside, hang on for second. 51 will sustain for third, as these guys do pretty much get single file throughout. Alrighty, well, Chuck Sweeting taking it to the outside lane there. Scott Crump trying to see if he can get that run to the inside of him. Not so much working right now, and again, for people who may not be as as ventured into the iRacing service, the way that the track surface does work is very realistic to how real life is, with a little bit of nuances here and there. So that outside lane is not rubbered in, so the tire wear up there is going to be even worse than it is down low. So that variable banking, it may be, it may be pretty, tempting to run that middle groove and see if you can get that banking, that speed through the middle. But where there's no tire wear up, there's no tire rubber in there, that's going to wear the tires down even more, and you don't want to risk blowing that right front. So you probably want to stay down in the groove, right on that white line for as long as you can. I do looks like we have some, I thought we had someone drop out there, but nope, everything seems to be okay as we do take lap number 3. Do see a side-by-side battle there. Joe Francis in the number 50. He lost a spot too. That is the number 6 machine of Chris Worrell there. Worrell got up to that 5th position, and I don't think Joe Francis is going to push it. If we know Joe Francis from how we've seen him race this season, he's one who is always going to kind of take a chill pill. He's going to hang back there. He's going to get himself where he needs to be at the end of the run, not so much pushing the issue early in the race. We usually see him up there in the last 20-30 laps, kind of Kevin Harvick style, so I expect him to kind of hold back. But someone who's not holding back is actually Chuck Sweeting in that number 27. Pulled to within a car length of the back bumper of the 24 of Chris Wright and that 24. So Chuck Sweeting wants that clean air, wants that number 27, that green and black blank machine. I don't see any sponsors anywhere on that machine, so I think that 27 kind of wants to get himself some showcase time and try to get some logos on the back bumper or on the front hood of that machine. But what's he gonna do? He's right to the back bumper. He's looking high. Is he gonna try to make that middle upper lane work in 1 and 2 and avoid the bumps? It's a lot smoother up there in the middle of 1 and 2, so you can kind of hold a little bit more speed, but he will hold back in line for now. See if he can get a good run off corner exit. And look at the run he gets right to the back bumper again. He has that higher entry into the corner, and he's going to try to get on the throttle a little bit quicker than right and try to get that run on exit. It looks like he's going to do just that. He's going to have that right rear quarter panel. He's going to look to the outside. He's going to fall back in line. I think he wants to use the outside, but kind of using that patience that we talked about that you need. You don't want to try too hard. He doesn't want to burn the tires up. There he goes into that second lane, opening the door for Scott Crump to the inside. Crump's going to see if he can make something happen down there. I don't think the momentum is going to be there. He will take a look back in line right now. As you can see, the new solar effects here on iRacing glimmering off these machines looks really nice, but there goes Crump to the inside. Sweeting very surprisingly gave up that position, was just going for the lead, but just gave it right up to Crump. Maybe he thinks he needs to take it back a little bit on the tires and try to save a little bit. So take an eye and see what happens there. So a lot of battling going on about 10th through 15th right now. That's Johnny Thomas in the 83, again our virtual in-car driver. We'll take a gander at what Johnny's doing right now from his perspective. Our virtual in-car segment here on Sim TV. You can see him very straight-faced right now, just really fully focused and fighting that wheel there. You try to hold a nice pretty wheel, side-by-side battle in front of him. That's Lytle and Leininger. Say that 10 times fast. So he doesn't quite know where to go. Does he want to go to the top of the racetrack? Does he want to stay on the bottom with Lytle? I'm going to assume he wants to go on the bottom. Well, what do I know? He's going to the top of the track. I think maybe that middle lane might be advantageous right now. Using that banking in the middle groove here. Remember Las Vegas variable bank facility. 18 degrees on the bottom, 19 in the middle, 20 if you stick it all the way up against the fence. But again, see how there's no rubber up there where Johnny Thomas is running. Where there's no rubber means that the tire wear is going to be that much more. So he's going to want to get closer to the bottom of the track and save that right front. Because, 20, 30 laps in from what we're hearing, that's going to be a big problem. If somebody hit the fence there, that red and white machine a little bit further up. I think that was Joshua Neal on the 7. May have hit the wall in the middle of the tri-oval there, it looks like. So a little bit of right front damage there. That opens the door for Damien Leininger to the inside. This is going to be a battle for that 9th position. Neal's going to be up there in the marbles per se. Side by side they do go, and does it look like the battle up front still is... it still is getting juicier and juicier by the lap, because now all 3 drivers are essentially under a blanket now. You can see Sweeting still running that top lane. I think he's really experimenting with lines, or he's either experimenting or struggling with that machine. Can't quite figure out which of the two it is, because he'll kind of surge and then drop back by a couple car lengths. So taking a different approach here to things. But look at Crump in that number 51 in that Toyota Camry. He's going to look to the inside. He got that run off of 4. He's going to take a look to the inside of your leader, Chris Wright. Wright has led all 12 laps. I think that streak will come to an end. There goes Crump to the inside. Move Scott Crump into the lead. Will the 24 try to do a crossover off of 2? I don't think the momentum is going to be there for that. So the 51 will be your leader. Here comes Chris Wright. He has a little bit of an optimistic look to the inside, but the run wasn't there. I think he was just trying to get the Crump to mirror drive just a little bit. We'll see if Sweeting in the 27 is going to be able to take advantage now that the 24 has dirty air. Will the 24 drop back a little bit? We will find out. Going a little bit further back, that's Gerald Campbell. Remember, he started on the front row. I believe he did. Anyways, he's currently battling with Chris Worrell, but Worrell kind of working his way through the field a little bit in that number 6 machine. Started in 7th, up to 5th, up 2 positions right now, so making some progress there. A little bit squirrely down the straightaway, if even, but... And then I do see, just looking a little bit further back, we have now that is what we call a gaggle of cars. Taking one out of the book of Matt Malone. 84 Robert Hill to the outside. He's going to have to the inside of him. That's going to be the 03 of Dylan Thomas. Dylan Thomas has that new paint scheme. Used to that lime green scheme of Dylan Thomas, but he has changed up, kind of throwing me off a little bit. Who is that up in the fence? That's the number 84 Robert Hill Jr. up there in the dust. He's going to lose about 3 or 4 positions. And everyone's hitting the fence off of 2. I did hear from Johnny Thomas that it is a very tight setup here at Las Vegas. Apparently everybody is starting to struggle with that as the laps do progress. We're about halfway through what a tire run is, as we were told. So we'll see if that if more of these drivers starting to struggle, if these guys are going to short pit, maybe even before we expected to. But Joshua Neal definitely struggling there, but still managing to hold that top 10 run. Is the 03 of Dylan Thomas using that outside lane in 1 and 2. I didn't expect that to work, but obviously that banking using this tight setup, is that going to be a look for 3 wide for Tate Lytle? Lytle's going to think better of it. He's going to back off. I think they realized that was a little bit too risky, but look at Dylan Thomas still rocking that outside lane. Johnny Thomas in the 83 rather, again, still trying to figure out where he wants to go with this move. These guys fanning out here down the front straightaway. Some great racing here at Las Vegas. And I do see my pal Brandon Kreutz has opened the door. He's getting himself set up in his chair. He'll be with us in a matter of moments. But again, Josh Neal drops back to the 10th position. Johnny Thomas trying to crack the door of the top 10. He's back to 12th, but he has that look to the inside. Thomas versus Thomas. Battle for 11th and 12th right now. He looks to the inside. Not missing anything up front. Crump has pulled away by about a half second on Chris Wright. This is the best battle, at least in the front end of the field right now. Damien Leininger directly behind Thomas, taking it all the way down to the apron there, trying to shorten the front stretch as much as he possibly can, try to see if it works to his advantage, but does actually look like that middle groove is starting to show some speed here. That inside, I think these guys are just so tight that they can't maintain momentum down there. They need that little bit of extra banking that the outside lane does provide, as we are on board with Damien Leininger. Leininger in the 12 machine, back in the 13th position. You can see his onboard statistics, about 160 as he exited quarter number 4. We'll see what the top speed ends up being as he enters turn number 1. Almost looked like he had a lift on the front straightaway there even, about 174 down to just about 142 miles an hour here. And again, he's in the dirty air in the middle of the pack, so that does not help his causes out at all. Damien Leininger. Again, Leininger is a driver. We've seen many good runs out of him this season. He did get the win at the Pocono Raceway just 2 weeks ago. So he's in a good position when it comes to the standings. We haven't really talked too much about the point standings thus far in the race. Or in the broadcast thus far. Scott Crump is your points leader by 12 points over Josh Adams. Adams, we haven't talked about him really since the announcement of the starting lineup. Adams, let's try to find that number 95 machine. He's actually quietly got himself into the 5th position, so doing a pretty good job. Up from his 8th spot, up 3. Just very quietly running in the top 5 right now. Tate Lytle is 3rd in points, 20 off your leader. Nick Massey tied for 3rd, also 20 off your leader. Remember, Lytle he was the points leader a couple weeks ago before he had back-to-back DNF. So, and he's going for that recovery. Does have himself in the 8th position thus far at that number 56. Belly Up Camaro. If I do get the sponsor correctly on that thing. Yep, Belly Up in the style of Bush there on that Camaro. Damien Leininger, your 5th place driver in points. And there goes Johnny Thomas, our virtual in-car driver. Fighting the wheel there. He's sideways on the back straightaway, but does crack the door of the top 10 as Josh Neal in that 7 is heading on backwards into the wrong direction. We saw him hit the wall a couple times, and look at that conga line to the inside of Neal. That's Nick Massey. Oh, and who is that clipping the grass there? I think that was Leininger clipping the grass there on the front straightaway. Neal again going all the way to the top of the track, running that Larson. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. Running the top line, does kind of get all the way up in the dust there and loses a couple more spots. That's Tyler Riggs. That's Adam Pettit, and even Kyle Lowry is going to go to the inside of Neal. So Neal was hanging on at the top 10. Now he's all the way back to the 17th position just in a matter of about 3 laps. So kind of amazing there. And does look like there's a battle in the top 5 right now. That's going to be the number 95 of Adams trying to go into that number 4 position. He's to the inside of Gerald Campbell all the way up to that 3rd groove. We'll see if that run does come off of the corner. And look at that run. He had the momentum. He's going to now go to the inside of Adams. Now can Adams run the high lane in 3 and 4 and hold off, or will it kind of be another set of crossovers off of 3 and 4 and onto the front straightaway? 95 will cross down low. Let's see if he gets that momentum. Let's see if he can take that momentum and try to make another repass of the 31. Not quite. So good bit of driving there. Good bit of defensive driving to hold on to the 4th position for the time being by the 31 of Gerald Campbell. And look at Joe Francis quietly bringing himself into the picture here. Campbell all the way up to that 3rd groove, and nearly it's a safer barrier on corner exit there. I can't tell you how many times I actually lost a championship race here a couple years back in a league I ran by hitting that same exact tapered safer barrier on corner exit there of 2. The way it tapers out is very, very deceiving in the way that you can run it. So got to be very careful with that. But and much to my surprise, but you know, it does make me glad to see that upper groove is actually starting to work for these guys. They're really starting to use that 2nd lane. Again, with how tight the tires are, how tight the setup is, and how much the tires are wearing, it is making these guys use all of that, all of that progressive banking that Las Vegas puts on offer. So that inside does get too tight. You need a little bit more banking to get that car, loosened up. So you use that little bit of extra banking, and you just have to hope in the process of it that you don't, burn a right front tire off it. Because I did remember talk to Johnny Thomas in the pre-race, and he did say that, about roughly 20, 30 laps in, we may be having some tires go down to 10% wear, I was told, after about 30 laps. So we'll see if we are getting to that point, if there's going to be any pit stops, if there's going to be any crashes because of it. Again, checking out some battles farther in the field now. I haven't really focused on the guys too far back in the field, so let's give them some love. Johnny Parham, the number 91. He's had a couple good runs this season. So far, not really taken to Las Vegas too well. He's battling with the number 4, Vincent Isabella. Isabella was a very quick driver last week. In last week's race at the, the Darlington race. I don't know why I just completely lost me, but yeah. The 4 of Isabella was very quick last week at Darlington. Obviously just not for some reason not clicking here at Las Vegas, but and still over 100 laps to go in this event. And as I mentioned in the pre-race, we do have some different drivers, some different graphics here on Sim TV. So I do want to, show off our new compare graphic here, and all courtesy of Kyle. You can kind of see the live difference between 1st and 2nd, Crump and Wright. Is that a Brandon Kreutz I hear?
It is. It is I.
Thank God, because I am about to have laryngitis.
Yeah, I had more issues. My whole 30 frames per second at the moment, down to about 15 at times, but we're making do with what we got here, and yeah, ready to watch some racing here for the first time in a couple of weeks in the iRacing world for me.
Yeah, I know Brandon's had, we both kind of bit the technical bug at the same time. I recovered from it a little bit quicker than you, Brandon, but, well, at least you're back in some regard, and I know you're still working to come back to 100% capacity.
Yeah, it, kind of caught me in a kind of a rough time between tech issues and then in the middle of a move, so we're back, we're ready, in a limited regard, but we are here and ready to roll.
Yeah, so I know, Brandon, you didn't get obviously the full synopsis of what's been going on, but Las Vegas, we've been talking to our virtual in-car driver Johnny Thomas. Talked to him in the pre-race, and he did mention how rough the tire wear is here at Las Vegas after 30 laps. He had mentioned to me that these guys are down to almost 10% wear on the right front tire, as we are on our virtual onboard segment, kind of watching him fight the wheel just a little bit to get the focus on that number 83 driver. But we are, we're about to hit that pivotal lap number 30. Haven't had a caution yet to slow us down, so these guys who maybe opened the race a little bit too aggressive on their, driving a little bit too hard. I mean, we very well may see some guys blow some right front tires here, Brandon, if we're going, past 30 even to 40 lap runs.
Yeah, that's a really interesting factor, and I think because these cars are able to carry so much more speed going into these corners, it's just a factor of these, especially with iRacing's newest version of their tire model. These tires wear down so quickly throughout the period of a run here at certain racetracks, Las Vegas obviously being one of them. It's something that these guys really got to watch out for in these Xfinity machines.
Yeah, and the dynamic track that we also talk about on iRacing, how it hasn't quite worked as well as it once used to, actually coming into play here as these drivers are so tight that they're able to use the variable banking that Las Vegas Motor Speedway provides. So we are seeing some guys go bottom to top, which is great to see, as we do have our first driver on pit road, Dylan Thomas. He was roughly at the top 10, and it did look like he overshot his stall massively there, so that's going to hurt him. But first driver drawing blood, at least in the top 10, comes to pit road. We'll see if that does bring any of our top hitters into the pits. I don't see anybody else at the moment. So taking a look at strategy, a lot of these guys have predicted this race to go green flag throughout. So if that does, what are we at? 30, 60, 90, 120, roughly a 4-stop race. One of these runs is going to have to be a little bit longer, but kind of the beauty of how asphalt and rubber does work, as the track does rubber in, tire wear typically gets a little bit better towards the end of the runs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just here at the beginning, like you said, Corey, these guys really going to have to be worried about where their tires are at and how hard they're pushing these race vehicles. That's crucial, especially for these leaders. If something were to happen and you end up into the outside wall or possibly just done for the night in a larger scale incident with a blown tire, it's not going to be good.
All right, Damien Leininger into the pits. He was in the top 10 as well, so we haven't seen any top 5 drivers come in. The cameras here in the pits are terrible, folks, so I do apologize for that. But another driver in the top 10. We haven't seen any of our leaders come in yet, so again, I'm kind of thinking some of these guys are trying to do that 4-stop race instead of the 3-stop race instead of a 4-stop race. But here comes a couple more drivers. Johnny Thomas, our virtual in-car driver, he's in the pits. Joshua Neal, we saw the struggle with him going from the top 10 all the way to almost in the mid-20s. He's in the pits now. Zishan Dura in the pits. So pit road is becoming more populous now as the strategy does begin, as we are hitting lap number 35 here in the Black Flags Matter 200.
So drivers taking 4 tires and fuel, and one thing these guys also got to watch out for, Corey, talking about fresh tires, is their tires still being cold coming off the exit of pit road. That first lap or two is going to be really, really loose with these race cars, and especially getting back on the throttle, these guys really got to watch the self-spins.
Yes, they do. That apron, remember the iRacing blend line. You'll see the blue line on the exit of corner number 2. That dictates, as Brandon was talking about, where these guys are able to merge back onto the racetrack. I know the green flag pit stops here at Las Vegas, they were much more difficult about, well, I was going to say 10 years ago, but this track has been reconfigured since 07. So I remember the prior configuration of Las Vegas, I mean, this is dating back almost 15 years at this point, was actually much more difficult. Las Vegas, a little bit more easy to enter the pits here with this new curved pit road that we have here in the new high-banked configuration of it. But still, even though it's easier, still not necessarily the easiest pit road to get onto.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that these guys got to watch out for, too, as they're slowing down there at the bottom of the racetrack, these drivers behind them have to be wary as well. And for the simple fact that there's going to be a much slower race car in front of them. These guys don't want to drop to the apron right away because that can cause issues in itself. So they slow down there at the very bottom lane of the racetrack, and traffic behind them. Normally, it's a good thing for the driver to give the guys behind them a little bit of a warning.
Yeah, that is the good thing about sim racing, is these guys do have, the in-sim communication to each other, so they can make those calls out. A couple more drivers on pit road. Sean Dias in the pits, Brandon Key, Kyle Hanshaw. Still none of our top 15 to pit road. None of our top 5 drivers have come to pit road just yet. So still waiting to see. It looks like these guys are going to stretch it at least to lap 40, and that may cut out a pit stop, which in terms of tire wear and lap times, we're down about almost 2.3 seconds for most of these guys. So definitely the fuel versus tire wear strategy is going to be very difficult and very interesting to follow. Absolutely.
So leaders kind of just cruising right now on a Monday night, and Chris Wright coming up to the back bumper of Scott Crump now. That gap is closed pretty significantly, Corey, so these guys may have a fight on their hands soon, although we are expecting green flag stops. Yeah, now Wright was our pole sitter, Brent. I know you were obviously late for that, but he was the pole sitter. He led the first 15, 20 laps, was passed by Crump, but apparently the super long run speed is more into the direction of the 24, as we are in the Black Flags Matter 200. I know, kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of an interesting name given the current events in the world, but Black Flags Matter actually has a pretty big YouTube channel, about 29,000 subscribers. A lot of podcast style videos of about NASCAR, opinionated things like that. We were supposed to have the owner of that channel kind of pop in the booth with us for a little bit and kind of talk about some things. Fortunately, that did not happen, but you can always check them out, Black Flags Matter, on YouTube, and subscribe and check out that as a partner with the league. As Gerald Campbell, first top 5 driver to come down to pit road, that number 31 machine. Gerald Campbell coming down pit roads for 4 fresh tires and fuel, and he'll try to gear up for a clean exits, and he'll do just that. A clean sweep for pit stop for Gerald Campbell, and he's underway.
You can see that blue cone there. That is the cone. Once you pass that cone and the line on the track, you are then allowed to merge back onto the track at your discretion. If you do it any earlier, the iRacing marshals will wave that black flag in your face, and that will obviously kill you at least a lap, probably closer to 2 laps here as a secondary green flag stop at Las Vegas. But Crump did lose the lead as we were focusing on the 31 exiting the pits. Crump did lose the lead to Wright, which typically when you lose the lead this late in a run, usually it's kind of advantageous to pull it straight to pit lane. We'll see if that is indeed what he does. I don't think he's going to do that with that many drivers around him. There's Johnny Thomas on fresh tires. There's Josh Adams. Josh Adams actually he still has a pit. This is a similar battle. So Adams obviously showing that super long run speed. Look at him drive right to the back bumper of the 51 through the center of 1 and 2.
That Protect 95 right onto the back bumper of Scott Crump now, and yeah, Adams showing the speed on this long run as well. And Corey, it looks like Crump just fell off in this very long run, and Adams right to his back bumper. Almost a little bit of contact there on corner exit. That was close.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a little bit of arrow loose situation there, if not a little bit of contact, but obviously that did not happen, luckily, because that would have threw out our first yellow flag of the race. But there goes Adams with the clean pass, and Tate Lytle coming in the number 56 machine, coming right to the back bumper of the 51. Now, again, I want to reiterate, Johnny Thomas did tell me around lap number 30 he was at 10% tire wear, but remember, Brandon, tire wear is very well dictated. Look at the 56. That 51 is not getting to the center of the corner very well at all. But tire wear is very well dictated by the driver, so some of these guys may be able to sustain those right fronts a little better than others, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a huge factor in these races as well, especially here on the really long runs like we have here at Las Vegas. That these guys just really got to save their tires, and some better at it than others. It just depends on the driving style, depends on the line you take into the corners and how aggressive you are at the beginning of these runs.
And there goes the 56 to the outside. Look at Gerald Campbell, 3 wide to the top with the fresh tires. As there goes Crump making his pit stop here on lap number 45.
Slowing it way down for the entrance of pit road. Clean entrance there. 50 miles an hour is the limit that he tried to hit, and he did succeed at that. So again, 4 tires and fuel for these guys, and Scott Crump just needs to be clean in and clean out.
Yep, and these guys on those super old tires, Chris Wright has that 3/4 of a second gap, but you really have to watch the mirror because these guys are pretty much like just bullets here. They just have they have so much momentum. They have almost 2.5 seconds of pace on these guys that have yet to pit. As Crump is just exiting the pits right now, so we'll see where he does, blend out into the mix. But we're going to have guys that have already been on the track for 15, 20 laps, Brandon, on fresh tires. We have guys that have still yet to make their first pit stop. So strategy is just absolutely, it's just all over the place right now.
Yeah, that it is, and these guys just trying to focus on their own race. So it does create an interesting effect into this race with how different strategies we have. You're going to have guys coming in for their first set of pit stops, and guys are almost ready for their second set of pit stops. So some of these guys trying to stretch it, and they may be able to make it work.
Remember the 80% fuel limit that we have in these machines, as we do have Joe Francis headed to pit lane right now. He gives up the 4th position, but the 80% fuel limit does limit these guys to about 50 laps maximum, or so I've been told. I tend to be wrong on fuel estimates every single time. Nick Massey also to pit road as well. So the fuel load in these cars will be coming to a finite conclusion very, very quickly. So I can't imagine much more than 5 laps these guys will have. But let's see, Johnny Thomas is the first driver on the track now on fresh tires. He is in turn number 2, and he is 26 seconds off of the lead. Now he should take the lead when the leaders pit, assuming that Gerald Campbell in 5th doesn't catch him beforehand, which I assume he will because he's on much better tires.
Yeah, so that creates some interesting effects all throughout this run, and as you said, Corey, a couple of guys have still yet to pit. Josh Adams on pit road now, still waiting for Chris Wright to come down. Tate Lytle on pit road as well, so soon enough we'll cycle through everything.
Yeah, soon enough we will, and these guys will, it's going to be an interesting scenario as we do have Josh Adams in pit road, so now it's just waiting on your leader, and there he comes. He has no choice. 1 second in, he has to come in immediately, so your leader comes to pit road on lap number 50. Going to be kind of interested, Brandon, to see how this works out because he pits on lap number 50, so realistically he's going to do this on 1 more pit stop. He's not going to need to go and stretch it to lap number 100 if he doesn't want to, but that'll just give him the super freshest tires for that last stint and allow him to push that much harder. Yeah,
absolutely right, Corey. These guys are all looking into the end of this race already, 50 laps into a 133 lap race, so obviously you're almost to that halfway point, and these guys just know that these laps are ticking by quick, so looking to the end and trying to get the best run that they can.
And Johnny Thomas, I said just before him, Brandon, that he would take the lead as long as Gerald Campbell didn't pass him. Well, he did get the lead for 1 lap, so he did manage to get just enough. But we did have Gerald Campbell take the lead, and we all have Chris Worrell in the 6 machine. He's looking to the outside, entering 1, going for the top spot.
Looking for that lead. This is the current battle for the lead. Now that 6 machine going to be up at the top of the racetrack. This time, about that second groove up. And look out. I thought he was going to catch the outside wall there, but he gets a huge run down the back straightaway down into turn 3.
Yes, he does, as he's using that banking there in that middle groove. Remember, that upper groove is not going to have as much rubber in it, so it's going to be a little bit harder on the tires. So the more he's up there, the more he is burning the tires, but he will clear for the top spot. And I do want to show off another graphic here that, again, we just added to our repertoire today by Kyle Heyer. So this is going to be very interesting to show you guys at home the varying strategies on hand to the right side of your... Oh. Well, never mind. That didn't work. Darn you, Kyle.
What'd you break, Corey?
It's supposed to be a button to pop out a graphic on the right side of the ticker to display the number of laps these guys have been on the track for, their current stint length, but it appears to be broken. So
We'll blame Kyle. It's always his fault.
yes, I will yell at Kyle. I will yell at you for that. But you do a great job, so we all make mistakes. I can't tell you how many times I made overlays, and there was glitches always in the first revision, but it could be me as well. But either way, in terms of stints right now, Chris Worrell and Gerald Campbell, they've both been out for 14 laps. Thomas is on 20-lap old tires. Crump is in 4th now. Him and Sweeting, 8 and 9-lap tires respectfully. They are closing in on these guys relatively quickly at a pace of about 0.7 of a second faster than your leaders per lap. Dylan Thomas, he has 23-lap old tires. Adam Pettit has 15-lap tires. Damien Leininger, he's on 22-lap old tires. Josh Adams has the freshest lap tires of anybody in the top 10. He's in 9th, but the only problem with that, he's 12 seconds off the leader, and he's also 7 seconds behind Scott Crump. So here he comes underneath Damien Leininger. That's going to be a battle for the 8th position, move up that 95 to P8. R2D2 in the room there, Brandon?
That was my pager going off, and that is me being stuck here, but that is my girlfriend leaving for a fire call at the moment, so we figured we'd get this call again, but yes, I believe it's the same place we were just at, so no, different. She says it's a different place. You'll have that.
All right, but Brandon's here. He's sending the missive off for it, so again, kind of a... Well, and all respect goes to you, Brandon, helping, anything to do to help out the community, especially you and the other half. So, luckily you were a little bit late, unfortunately, but all for good cause. But glad to have you with us, as again we do have another battle for the lead. It looks like that 31. He lost it for a couple laps, but he wasn't done. He's going back for glory here to the inside in corner number 3. All the way to the top is the number 6 machine of Chris Worrell. He's going to try to hang on to the right rear quarter panel. Not going to happen. 31 back to the top spot.
31 to the top spot. Gerald Campbell trying to do everything he can to hang on to that lead this time around, and a hard-fought battle for the lead already, Corey.
Yeah, these guys aren't backing off, but what I am looking at is 3rd place Scott Crump. Again, we'll pull up our comparison graphic here. Scott Crump, trying to see where he is right now. In comparison to our leader of the number 31 machine. He's Scott Crump 33.9, Gerald Campbell 34.39. Difference of about half a second in those laps. So obviously those fresher tires of that 51 are coming into play, and he's less than 2 seconds back. So realistically, he should have the lead within about 5 laps, probably, if even that. But then that puts you in the situation of, well, if you're the 31 and the 6, what are you doing? Are you planning on a pit stop, within around lap 70, lap 80? Again, it's really a mixed bag all over. It's hard to predict, and I don't want to break my brain trying to. Robert Hill Jr. going a lap down. He's all the way back on the 24th position.
And we're back again. I apologize.
It's all good, but we are closing in on halfway. Halfway on 133 laps would be, lap 67, I believe, will be our halfway lap. So just before that. So I think it's good. As good a time as ever, because I don't expect pit stops for anybody within the next 5 minutes, hopefully. So we'll go ahead and do our SimTV through the field. Gerald Campbell is your leader right now in the number 31. Chris Worrell back to 2nd. Scott Crump is in 3rd, but he will be gaining very quickly. Chuck Sweeting is in 4th. Josh Adams running in 5th. Johnny Thomas still holding on to 6th. Joe Francis in 7th. Tate Lytle in 8th. Chris Wright in 9th. Adam Pettit in 10th. Dylan Thomas is in 11th, Damien Leininger in 12th, Johnny Parham in 13th, Kyle Hanshaw is in 14th, Nick Massey still running in 15th. Not very surprising for that 48 not to move up in the field. Tyler Riggs in 16th, Josh Neal all the way back in 17th. Lowry's of Kenny in 18th and Kyle in 19th, and then Zishan Dura rounding out your top 20, and then rounding out your field because everybody still is on the track. Sean Dias in 21st, Brian Dorsey in 22nd, Vincent Isabella in 23rd, Robert Hill Jr. we just mentioned in 24th, Patrick Gaspar in 25th, Richard Lafferty in 26th, Brent Jones, Brandon Key, and former fan favorite Zach Patton shotgun on the field in 29th. I say former because the audience has been gone, I think, since midway in the season.
Yeah, you'll have that. Now, we still love you, Zach Patton. It's all right.
Sorry that your fans don't. But, but battle for the lead commencing. I talked about roughly 5 laps before Crump got there. I mean, I didn't count precisely, but I think I'm pretty close in that estimate. He's right to the back bumper of Campbell. He's going to have that fresh tire. He's going to be able to look all the way inside. Campbell's going to try to block him just a little bit, move him all the way down to the apron there as they do go 3 wide to split the lap machine. But entering turn 1, I presume the grip of the 51 will allow him to run that inside lane fast enough to take over the lead, but Campbell's trying to pinch him down, but just won't have enough in the tank to be able to do so.
Yeah, these guys still going at it. You know, obviously Scott Crump taking over that top spot, but Gerald Campbell hanging right with him, at least for the moment, Corey. And unbelievable battle for the lead we've had these last few laps, and it looks like it's going to settle out now.
Well, and that was Vincent Isabella going a lap down. And I was referencing him earlier, Brendan. You know, you weren't with us last week, but Isabella was running phenomenal last week at Darlington. Actually, he was probably in the top 10 for the vast majority of the race. Ended up finishing 7th, but just not taking the Las Vegas Motor Speedway very well. A little bit of damage to the right front. He is in a lucky dog position, but that lucky dog not able to bank on that too much tonight. I'm not really predicting that to come into play.
Absolutely. So these guys cruising on a Monday night, and feels good to be back, Corey. Obviously took a week off, and another week I come back. Turns out to be a busy night in the fire service. Shout out to all of the other first responders we have. By the way, obviously me and my girlfriend, both firefighters, frontline, everybody else, EMTs, police, fire, dispatch, military, everybody out there, huge shout out. I have a huge amount of respect to everybody involved. So
I know there's a lot of negative connotations going around, and you know, for every, and I am going to say this very generically because I do not want to cause a political debate, but for every one bad apple, there still are, you know, probably 99 good ones out there. So obviously that one bad one needs to get locked up, and we need to, you know, make sure we fix the problems with those bad ones. But again, we do have to give praise to all the hardworking good ones out there, out protecting our streets and, you know, protecting our houses and our properties.
yeah, and this is where I constantly check my phone because I get worried about her when she's on calls and I'm not there. But you know, you'll have that.
So cute.
Yeah, I always check for updates and everything else. It's not often I don't get to go to one, but you know, you'll have that.
Well, we do have our second set of pit stops. Dylan Thomas was hanging on to the end of the top 10, 36 lap run, and he finds himself on pit road for the second time. So if he's going to do that kind of situation right now, we are, oh my God, we're just past halfway, so he's going to have to pit somewhere around lap number 100, you'd expect. So that's going to be the 4-stop race. You know, compared to some drivers looking to maybe do a 2-stop race. That's kind of mind-blowing that it did work out that way. And, you know, makes you wonder how many of these drivers had a pre-race strategy, you know, maybe banked on a caution or two here and there, or how many of these guys are just, you know, kind of making reactive strategies. Well, I was going to pit then, but everybody else is pitting now, so I guess I have to as well. I know that kind of thing happens quite a bit as well. You know, part of sim racing is, you know, in the real world, I mean, there are drivers who do have, you know, an actual crew. They will have a spotter, or at least a spotter who's double dutying as a crew chief, but who has, different apps open, checking numbers, checking fuel usage, checking lap times. But the majority of these drivers, they're just, we do have our tools to our disposal, our black box, as we call them in iRacing. How much fuel do I have? Who's coming, who's going. And you're just coming up with these decisions on the fly, Brendan. And we talk about all the time. It's hard calling a race on the fly, and it's, when you get it wrong, it really burns, especially when you have a fast car.
Yeah, absolutely, Corey. And these guys are fighting as I'm looking now. Gerald Campbell under fire from Josh Adams. Adams going to shoot to the inside of the racetrack now, the 95. And he's going to take over that third podium position. Gerald Campbell going to shoot back to fourth.
Okay, well, and again, not too much of a surprise because most of these guys have, Crump has 26 lap tires, Sweeting has 27, Adams has 22. He has the freshest tire of the bunch. He's only about 0.2 of a second faster per lap. He is about 2.5 seconds off the leader, so he probably will get there before the stint ends, I'd have to imagine. But Worrell and Campbell, they're both at least 6 to 7 lap older tires than these guys ahead of him, so it is predicted for them to fall back. Lytle should be able to blow by him relatively quickly, along with Chris Wright. Each of them have 10 lap fresher tires, so the tire wear is definitely coming into play. And when that pulls these guys to pit road for the next time is going to be our ultimate question. And we already saw Dylan Thomas, but have yet to see anybody else. So we'll be waiting to see who's the next one to draw blood. There goes Tate Lytle to the inside. Power move under Worrell. And I think Lytle's going to try to go 2 for 1 here. He's going to look to the inside of Campbell as Worrell kind of scraped the fence there off corner number 4. Lytle couldn't get the run off of 4, but he pulled under in the middle of the tri-oval there. Almost makes you wonder if they're lifting in the tri-oval. But he takes it to the inside in 1 and 2. 31's going to try to hang up there on the outside, maintain some momentum. Looks like he may actually do that. See our backstretch cam here and the new camera shake feature that iRacing has given us. Cool little effect.
I love that little effect. It's such a minor detail, but man, does it add to the realism to these broadcasts, and as a broadcaster, we all appreciate it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and the thing is it's not overdone. That's what I was worried about, kind of NASCAR heat style, where everything is just kind of faked and, overdone. It's actually done to the speed and the proximity of the cars around it. So it's actually is pretty much as authentic as they possibly could make it. So, and kudos to iRacing. There's a lot of stuff they do right. A lot of stuff I wish they would fix, but they do a lot of stuff right. So, again, a very good feature, especially for us here on air.
Absolutely.
Nick Massey in the number 48 machine has cracked the top 10. Looks like he is closing in on Adam Pettit in the 57 machine. Trying to take that 9th position away. And Massey started back in the 15th position, and him and his teammate Josh Adams, Rubbins Racing Motorsports, usually expect them to be top 5, and Adams obviously is working his way there, and you can see on the ticker less than 2 seconds off the lead, so he is closing in a hurry. We expected his teammate Nick Massey to kind of follow suit and follow him up there, but just much more slow, methodical, emphasis on slow approach to the front. Luckily, he still has over half the race, and he is in the top 10 at the very least.
So these guys continue to cruise around the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and obviously the gambling capital of the world. And Corey, we see tonight a huge gamble tonight. Is just strategy all around, and I know we've talked about it a lot, but just the different strategies that we see, just even throughout the top 10, a gamble is what could get somebody into victory lane tonight.
Yeah, I think it is. As Johnny Thomas, our in-car driver, he just kind of slalomed there around Worrell and around Lafferty. He is on fresher tires. Brandon, I don't know if you want to run down and see. He did mention once he wouldn't mind doing a green flag interview. I don't want to throw him off his game now. If you want to run down and see if that's okay, we'll maybe get a quick word with him, if it's okay with him. But we do have Josh Adams going for the second spot here on Chuck Sweeting. That's a battle for second. It's no battle no longer. So now move Adams up to second, 1.5 seconds off the lead. And I do expect him to get to the back bumper of Crump relatively shortly with these fresher tires.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adams is on a roll all the way up to that second position. And like you said, Corey, working his way up to your current leader, Scott Crump. And that little bit of manipulation and strategy, though it doesn't seem like much, those extra few laps could really turn this race around for Josh Adams and get him into victory lane up into that top spot tonight.
Yeah, I know he's been, Adams, taking a look here. He did win last week at Darlington. You'd think I'd remember, what just happened last Monday. But that was his first win of the season. And the runs he's had this season, he's had a lot of wins slip away, a lot of, bad luck. But, as we said, the Sin City gambling, if you're going to have luck, it's going to change one way or another, and it's going to change here at Las Vegas. So interesting to see that, as we do see Chris Worrell here. I'm losing him from my timing screen. Hopefully he pops back. He was in the top 10, but I'm not seeing him pop back. We'll see. We may have lost one of our top 10 drivers here, Chris Worrell, due to the nature of internet connectivity. But we'll hope for him to come back, but it's going to move a couple of these drivers up a position here on the pylon. All right, Brandon's going to go. Brandon is just going and talking to Johnny Thomas again. Green flag race. He did mention he wouldn't mind doing a green flag, a little live segment with us, but we don't want to throw him off his game, so he's going to run up and run up to the ERSCA hauler and talk to him and see if it's okay. Get some live, Last week we had some technical issues with it. I kind of figured out it was just a minor setting change that I had to do on my end, and it is making us have the ability to sustain this feature. So we may actually try to expand it next week to some other drivers, but Brandon is back.
And I brought company.
All right, we do have you're driving, man, so we'll keep it short, but a green flag race start to finish. How's it been going for the 83 tonight?
Pretty solid, Corey. It's just like I said earlier before the race started, how tight it is, and the tire wear is extreme. I kind of broke this race down into 3 segments. These leaders broke it down into 2. It might backfire on me, but right now my strategy is when these leaders come down to pit road, I'll probably come out in first, second, or third, and I'm going to need a caution within like 15 laps. And if I get that, I'll be all right. But if I don't, I think I'm going to settle somewhere between about 10th through 15th. Corey, this reminds me, do you ever see that video of Tim Richmond doing a green flag interview?
Oh, yes, I'm old school, brother.
Richmond,
watch out for that 87.
I don't know where he's going.
All right, one more question I got for you. I know we talk about dynamic track on iRacing not being what it was. You guys are moving around today. How's that feeling with the multi-lanes tonight?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's surprising. Like up here, the top lane's kind of working. If you got older tires, new tires, you want to be on the bottom. But if you're fighting in, if you're trying to find a groove, the top lane isn't too bad in 1 and 2. 3 and 4 is just right down on the bottom. You gotta kind of stay down there.
All right, brother. Well, we'll let you get back at it, see how that strategy shakes out. Maybe we'll be talking to you in the post race.
Yeah, hopefully I maybe go 3 wide with the leader, scare him a little bit.
All right. Well, good luck, Johnny. We'll talk to you.
See you later.
All right, our virtual that segment is pretty cool, man. I'm looking forward to that. Again, the technical.
Wow, that was pretty cool. I like that.
The technical glitches were worked out. There was a minor setting that I had to change with bandwidth and stuff like that. But through that in-car segment we just did, Josh Adams did take the lead over Crump, and Johnny Thomas right in the middle of the two of them. He's using those fresh tires to try to unlap himself right now. He's in 13th, one lap down, so he's going to send it around the outside, and this is going to be a very big move for him because it's going to get him back on the lead lap as we do close in on 45 laps to go. So a lot of these drivers are, setting up for their final pit stops. And some of these drivers have, only made one. Gerald Campbell coming into the pits right now in the number 31 machine. We did mention Chris Worrell. We did lose him. He's not come back. So Worrell he led some laps early in the race. Good solid top 5, top 10 run. Looks like he will be out of the race on some kind of connectivity issues. But Johnny, oh no, and Campbell overshot his stall, had to back up a couple feet. That's going to cost him.
That's huge for Gerald Campbell, and little mistake like that can cost you seconds on the racetrack, and obviously a huge gap he's going to be losing just from that little mistake. So that's huge. You really got to be clean in, clean out, especially under these green flag stops, and that's big implications.
Yeah, big implications there. It's going to, you're going to gain time in the pits. Then rather than you're going to get on the racetrack. So you lose another 2 seconds in the pits, and you were just in a battle. That battle's over with. But Chuck Sweeting, top 5 driver, he comes to pit lane, which we presume it to be the last time, assuming that we don't have any cautions to interrupt status here. Adam Pettit in the number 57 also finds himself in pit lane right now.
So all of these guys just cruising around at the moment. Obviously, Josh Adams up in the lead. Tate Lytle has himself in a side-by-side situation with the 0-3. All of these guys on fresh tires trying to get around these leaders at the moment. So you can see the speed difference between old and new right there is all of these guys trying to slice and dice their way through. Is Chris Wright back there a victim of this as well? So all of these guys just trying to fight through. Joe Francis up to that 4th position for the moment. Scott Crump back there in 5th. Now Crump finds his way onto pit road.
Yeah, Crump in pit road right now. And did he overshoot his butt? Oh, he just stopped on the money there.
Just stopped.
All right, but Joe Francis, as you said, Brandon, he's in 4th right now, and he is one that we always seek. He's the kind of the Harvick of the bunch. He comes through at the very end. He doesn't show his hand in the first 100 laps. He shows it when it matters. So where he's in the top 5 now, I do find that rather interesting. Unfortunately, it's 13 seconds behind your leader, but if it doesn't matter if you're 13 seconds back, a top 5 still a top 5 in my book.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And all of these guys are just looking at the big picture. Obviously, every driver wants a race win, and it's huge. But if you can be consistent all through the top 5 every week, top 5, top 10, that's huge for point standings alone, because if you can knock that out week after week, all it takes is a couple of bad weeks for these guys that win every week, and it can put them right out of the race for the big championship picture.
And speaking of championship, next week, Brandon, I don't know what your status is next week, but that's probably not one you don't want to miss, because it is our it's our playoff decider at the brand new, as in 1987, brand new, but the brand new North Wilkesboro Speedway. We will be headed there, and I just actually ran some laps there. Ran a race last week in the 87 car, which that track is a blast. The Xfinity machines haven't taken it up there, but that's going to be a fun race, and that's going to be the championship. I keep saying the championship decider, the playoff decider, as we will get down to a 10-driver playoff grid here, from what I can tell on our website. And the last driver in that top 10 right now, Brandon, is our in-car driver of Johnny Thomas, who is hanging on to a 2-point lead for that 10th spot over Brandon Key. And Brandon Key's all the way back in the 23rd position, so it does look like Johnny Thomas, if he can sustain where he is, he should kind of pad that gap he has over 11th.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to hang
Chris
where
Wright to
he-
pit road. Big. That's big here because that's a top. He was in the third spot.
Yeah, clean into his box, nice and smooth entry to pit road for that 24 machine, so that's big, and that first pit stall is what he has, so should be pretty clear sailing off of pit road as long as he stays below that blue line.
So pit road is getting rather populous now. Top two drivers in the pits. It will give the lead temporarily to Nick Massey, who I swear, Brendan, it looks like these guys are almost down a cylinder or something as slow as they are, but that's just how slow. Nick Massey's last lap, almost 36:21 to a best lap of 33. I don't think, Brandon, in my entire iRacing career, I've seen 3.3 seconds of tire fall off.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
I mean, I don't know if it's impressive in a good way or not, but like a 36-second lap around Las Vegas. I mean, that's like a Richard Petty driving experience this lap time around here. But here he comes into the pits in that number 48 machine. He's going to sacrifice the lead to Chuck Sweeting, who's in the second spot right now, soon to be first. Now, the interesting dynamic here is we are under 40 laps to go, closing in on the century mark in laps here tonight. Now, Sweeting has been out. This will be the 8th lap he has been on the racetrack. Gerald Campbell is 2.5 seconds back in 9th. Well, on 9-lap tires, so slightly older tires than Sweeting. The dynamic comes in where Scott Crump is just about to take the second spot. He has 3-lap fresher tires than Chuck Sweeting does. 3-lap fresher tires and about a 3-second gap. You would think three laps is not that big of a deal. I'm going to guarantee that he's probably going to make some insert word here. Make some headway. There we go. Into that 3-second gap.
Make some insert word here.
Make headway. That was the word I was looking for. It just could not come to me. But right now, so we have Campbell in third, Dylan Thomas and Johnny Thomas, fourth and fifth now. I never learned if there's actually a relation there. I don't think there is because they probably would have told me by now. But the Thomas boys, fourth and fifth right now. And remember, they are, at least Johnny, we've talked to him, he's dying for another caution because he doesn't, and look at him just getting split here. That was Tyler, I think that was Tyler Riggs just split him there.
Man, that was almost disastrous there for that 83 machine. Talk about wheeling and dealing. Sideways down through the tri-oval.
Well, that's Josh Adams that just got Josh Adams and Chris Wright fifth and sixth now. Now they have fresher tires than Crump, and they have fresher tires than Sweeting, Campbell, and Thomas. And that's just kind of where he's positioned himself all race, giving Adams that fresher rubber. He's 7 seconds back, and he has 33 laps to gain 7 seconds with much faster, with much better tires. So it's going to be interesting to see when he's able to get there. But I'm assuming, Brandon, we're going to probably have all these guys kind of rubber band together in the last 15 laps, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is shaping up to be a really good ending to this race, and obviously these guys varying strategies, but
varying strategies that all will converge at the very end. And Johnny Thomas does have some right rear damage I never noticed before, but he does come to pit road here with 32 to go, and I think this is going to be very, very sad for him because I think he kind of knows that he didn't get the caution he needed, so now he's just going to have to send it as hard as he can for the last 30 or so laps and to see what he can get out of it. But right now, Sweeting is holding a 1.5 second gap over Scott Crump. Just about a 2 second gap over Gerald Campbell. And Josh Adams, he was just 7 seconds back, Brennan. Now it's already under 5. So Adams is just absolutely picking it off like crazy right now. We'll kind of bring up our reference graphic here on lap times and compare your leader to Josh Adams right now. Chuck Sweeting a 34.16 to a 33.23. That's a almost 1 second a lap faster lap time right now for Adams. We'll wait for it to update this next time by. 34.17 to a 33.29, another almost 9/10. So what was a 7-second buffer just a few laps ago is now down to just about 3 seconds. So I think if you're a 95 fan, you may have some pretty strong feelings about a back-to-back coming unless we have a caution. Nate Lytle taking it 3 wide underneath Chris Wright and Gerald Campbell. That's for the 4th position. 4th, 5th, and 6th there under a blanket. Move the 56 underneath the number 24 machine. Actually, they're going to be side by side. Pretty much even tires on those two machines. So, and first caution of the race right now. First caution comes out. It looks like Brandon Key in the 53 sideways off of 4. That changes everything. See what happened here on SimTV replays. I do think Brandon may have had something happen here because he's gone a little bit quiet, but he might be dealing with some stuff. But let's take a look at what happened here on replay. I do have it queued up here. Looks like coming off of corner number 4. It looks like the 53 was pitting, but the person behind him wasn't really preparing for that. It looks like that was the 22 machine of Kenny Lowry. Just kind of hooked him on the entry to the pits. I don't know if he called it out last second that he was pitting or what, but obviously that and somebody else. Check. Oh, we got you.
Wow. Okay, my mic stopped working for about the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what happened there, but
yeah, I've been sitting here trying to fix it, and
but yeah, we are under our first caution after that incident with Key and Lowry, but it's going to bring everyone to pit road for roughly about a 25 lap, stint to the finish. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, it's going to pretty much change everything because, tire strategy is still not going to come. Tire strategy is now gone. Scott Crump, I don't know how he didn't overshoot that pit entry, but he just absolutely nailed it there. But it's going to be a matter of who can drive hardest for about 25 laps. And, well, if it's anything compared to our Darlington race last week, we had a long green flag race at Darlington last week. And it turned into an absolute calamity-ridden session to conclude the last couple laps. As Chuck Sweeting, I think he might have had a speeding penalty because he has still in the pits for a very, very long amount of time.
Yeah, and still sitting there is that 27. Now he's off and away, but very unfortunate break. My guess would probably be speeding on pit entry for that 27 machine.
And I still don't understand why they haven't fixed that yet, because now that we actually have proper drive-through penalties, I don't know why it's still a holding penalty for speeding in the pits, but perhaps that'll come in time. But that does give Crump your lead, with Josh Adams second, Tate Lytle third, Chris Wright in fourth, and Gerald Campbell in fifth. Remember the driver who we talked about needing the caution the most, Johnny Thomas. He's in 20th now, and he is ahead of your leader, so he is in free wave around territory. But the thing with the wave around is you do have to sacrifice your pit stop to get that lap back via the wave around. So he's going to have to take his slightly aged tires and pretty much pray for another caution to be able to pit, get fresh tires, and get on the same page as everybody else.
Yeah, so this is shaping up to be a pretty interesting race ending, Corey. Obviously, the first caution flag of the night, and now leading up into what is normally a short track shootout here on the mile and a half.
Yeah, essentially that's going to be the case where, I mean, you're still going to have to say, I mean, ultimately the guy who can drive the fastest and still save a little bit of tire is going to be the one probably to take the victory, just because even a 20-lap shootout, or 23 laps looks like we'll probably end up having. You can't go full send for 23 laps. That's essentially half a tire run. So you're still going to have to be the one to get the most out of the tires, but not kill too much, because if you kill too much, it will come back to bite you in the last couple laps of the run.
Absolutely correct. So these guys, in just a couple of laps time, we'll get doubled up, stacked up, and ready to go green flag racing once again, as lots of wave around cars to be waved around.
And kind of again, and we do have a patch coming via iRacing on Wednesday, and I don't know if there's going to be, something for these caution flags, man, because, yeah, I know we have shorter cautions at, some of our bigger tracks, but I swear, at the expense of that, the cautions are about 2 laps longer at just about every other track, it feels like.
I know it.
I want to say we're on about the 5th lap of caution now. At least it feels that way, but I have to gather with everything in us that pace car will turn the lights off this coming lap, and then we will get ourselves going the following lap to get this race back green, which will give it about a 22 to 23 lap sprint to the end. But again, referencing our Darlington race last week, Brandon, green flag. I mean, there was a caution or two in the beginning, but a very long, hardy green flag middle segment of the race. And I'll tell you, for the last 30 laps of that race, we couldn't get more than 2 laps of green flag racing in before we had another caution. So absolute calamity did ensue. But Darlington's a little bit different than Las Vegas. I think these guys will clean it up, but the aggression's going to go up, so would not surprise me to have one more pace car segment before the race concludes.
You know the old saying, Corey, cautions breed cautions.
'Tis true indeed. But first time tonight, other than the initial start, we are behind the iRacing Mustang pace car, and Scott Crump will have the ideal position in the control of the field, and his I don't know what he's doing all the way down there on the apron, trying to collect some marbles just for entertainment, but he's all the way down there to the inside. He does have Lytle and Wright 3rd and 4th, with the 31 of Campbell and the 03 of Dylan Thomas in 5th and 6th. So we'll see what kind of run the 95 can get on the outside. We know he's a long run driver, but it's not really going to be a long run, so can he expedite it and get it done on a short stint? Let's find out. So pace car is going to come through to quarter number 4 here at Las Vegas on our first restart of the evening, coming to take lap number 111. Scott Crump's going to get on the lap pedal very early in the zone and get that jump for the restart.
Scott Crump out front of this thing for the moment, and a gaggle of race cars back behind him. The Hornet's Nest back there for just outside of the top 5 now, and all of these guys try to get settled out, trying to gain any position that they possibly can.
Yep, this is where you have to gain the spots while everybody is right there together, because once they get spread out, especially on newer tires, everyone's going to have that grip. You're not going to have the differential between drivers that you have later in a run, so you're going to have to get it, because we only have 21 laps to go this time by. Crump gets himself a 4/10 of a second lead, but again, it's 20 laps, but a lot's going to happen in these 20 laps. As we did lose Dylan Thomas. He was just in the top 5. Looks like we may have lost him to some kind of internet issue, I believe.
Tate Lytle up into that 3rd position, falling behind Josh Adams. Adams now has his eyes set on your race leader, Scott Crump. Still trying to hold, but that gap is slowly but surely starting to close, Corey.
Yes, it is. First lap out off the run, it was about 4/10. Now it's a 1/4 of a second, but Tate Lytle, again, Haven't really talked too much about him this race. I mean, we've referenced him top 5, but we haven't referenced him as a winning car. But here he finds himself third within striking distance here when it matters. So again, kind of pulling the Harvick card. Joe Francis, who I expected to pull the Harvick card, back in 7th. So it still has a little bit of work to do before he can do anything. But he is closing right to the back bumper of Leininger, and he's going to look to the outside of Leininger through the tri-oval.
Trying to see what he can do now, trying to look to the outside, and he's at his corner and going to be able to sneak his nose up to the outside. Now he has the run.
Yes, he does. He's using that outside lane. Now, we talked to Johnny Thomas saying that outside in 3 and 4 isn't nearly as good, but he's using it to his advantage and trying to pinch the 12 of Leininger down as best he can. We know that outside in 1 and 2 is where all the gravy's been, so he's going to try to get as much of it as he can. He's going to send it on up in there. The 12's going to get that advantage through the lower distance on the inside, but there comes the momentum of that outer groove. We'll see if he can clear him on the back straightaway.
Heading down into turn 3, he will clear, and he's going to maintain that little bit of a late apex from the 50 machine, and he's going to get the momentum off, and clean sailing for Joe Francis now against Damien Leininger.
The battle up front is starting to heat up right now. The gap was 4 tenths. Now it's 2 tenths. Now it's basically 1.5 car lengths between the 51 and the 95. And guys, we've seen all season going for wins. And I mean, who else would you expect as the playoffs come on the line? This is where you show the guys that are going to be there going for the championship as we go to Texas, Richmond, Dega, Martinsville, and concluding the season at Atlanta. These are the guys that we're going to expect going for that championship as they are going for the race win here in the closing laps at Vegas.
It's Scott Crump into that top spot right now. He's in the hot seat against Josh Adams back there in the 95 machine. Both of these guys fighting for the race lead. Tate Lytle not too far behind in that 3rd position. Top 2 cars potentially going to battle it out here very shortly. Just a handful of laps to go.
Now, Brandon, just think of it from the 95's perspective right now. There's still 16 laps to go, which in racers' terms is nothing, but we know 16 laps in tires is a big deal. Does he want to go right now? Does he kind of want to force the 51 to drive his stuff off? What would you do if you're the 95?
If I'm in his position, I just try to keep the tires cool right now. You can't do anything too stupid. Just, hang back until it's go time within the last 10 or so laps, I'd say. Even maybe a little bit less than that. It's just, he's doing what he has to do, but he's got to watch out because Tate Lytle coming up behind him quick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can't waste too much time because that 56 is ready to pounce. Now, you're going to have to do something different. We saw, Joe Francis taken to that high side. So right now these guys still have enough grip to be using that inside lane as the quickest way around the speedway. But we've seen later in the run, these guys were starting to run the middle and the high lane. You can see Lytle kind of experimenting with a higher entry into corner number 3 there. So they're going to have to do something a little bit different. But it did look like whatever Lytle did that time through 3 and 4 was rather advantageous because it did close the gap between him and Adams.
That it did, and Tate Lytle, the 56 machine, trying to find a way around that 95. Now right up to his back bumper that time off of turn 2. These guys maybe looking to have a drag race. Tate Lytle looks to the inside. Not going to make it work that time at a 3, but he may have the run this time off of 4.
Yeah, that number 56 machine is showing what he is made of here as we have 13 coming to 12 laps to go at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Less than 10 minutes of racing if we do stay green. Look at the slightly different entry from Lytle, trying to get that little bit higher of an entry, which usually gives you the little bit better of a runoff. But while these guys are still going at it, they haven't lost any time to Crump. He's right there within a quarter of a second. All 3 of these guys essentially within a half second of each other.
Yeah, basically it's still 3 cars under a blanket, and positions number 2 and 3 are still trying to fight it out. Tate Lytle, he looked to the outside, now looking to the inside, this time at a turn 1. He sticks his nose underneath the 95 now. Can he quite get there? Not quite off a turn 2 that time by, and this is where these guys really got to be careful, Corey. He may be using up his stuff too early. Those tires get too hot. He won't be able to do anything here at the very end of this race.
Yeah, and we didn't know what the 95 was doing, if he was holding back or if he was giving it his all to stay even where he was. Perhaps he was giving it his all, and maybe it was just a little bit too early, but we'll see what happens because they're still holding close enough. I mean, they're not really dropping off, but it's just a matter of the 56 just stalking the back bumper. But we're coming to 10 laps to go this time by, and I mean, if you're Crump, all you got to do is hold 10 clean laps, and it seems like these guys are just too evenly matched to really be able to pounce on each other.
Yeah, I agree 100%, as I thought Adams was going to catch that outside wall there, the 95, but yeah, I agree. I think all three of these cars are evenly matched, and you can see the gap really hasn't separated any between these guys here late in this race, just on this last green flag run, and now closing in just a handful of laps to go.
Yeah, one of them, I expect it to be Lytle at one of these laps. He's going to send it all the way to the top of the track just because you can see he kind of clipped the apron there. That's going to throw him off just a little bit off of 4, but you said you have to do something different. If everyone is running the white line, you're not going to make a pass down there. You kind of have to experiment, and we've seen drivers run that third lane to their advantage. So I think at some point someone's got to experiment a little bit, but it did look like through the center of 1 and 2 there, Adams actually got a better run, and this is as close as he's been, I think, since the restart.
I agree, and Corey, that may have gone back to what I was saying before, maybe just saving your stuff a little bit, just for the last 10 or so laps of this thing, and Adams obviously managed to save a little bit more than Scott Crump, and now both of these guys are going to be driving it hard within the last few laps.
Yes, they are. You can see the marbles on the top of the racetrack. Maybe that's why they don't want to go up there. I think maybe they're a lack of grip just due to the marbles on the top of the racetrack. Just kind of saw that from our turn 2 camera there. But we do have a battle for third right now. Is that Chris Wright looking to the top of the track, taking the third spot off Tate Lytle? Well, don't write out that 24 machine just yet. Talked about running different lanes, so what did the 24 do? He sent it to the top of the track, and he picked off a spot, and now look what everybody's doing. Here comes that 95 running a lane off the bottom here in 1 and 2, trying to see if it works on Crump.
Chris Wright coming up with a head of steam, and now all the way up to that third position. Could he have a shot at this race win now? Little bit of a late apex that time around. It's how we got the momentum the last time off of turn number 4, and trying it once again right up to the back bump of the 95. The 95 ducks down out of the apron now, trying to get a nose underneath Scott Crump.
Oh.
Not quite able to get there. Crump says no. He shuts the door. The battle for the lead is starting to heat up even more.
He's running that second lane, and he might have a little bit more momentum off of 2. Crump's kind of blocking the inside, kind of allowing him to use that outside lane. But here comes that 24 machine. I think Adams is trying to set the 51 up, but he can't set him up too much because then he's going to cost himself a chance at second with Chris Wright pouncing on the back bumper of himself.
Scott Crump still holding the lead this time down at turn 1. Just about 4 laps to go. 4 or 5 laps to go this time. All of these cars still under a blanket. Tate Lytle fell off just a little bit from this group. He is still relatively close, but I think about out of the picture for the race lead. May have used up his stuff just a little bit too early. And again, it comes down to how equally matched all these cars are, Corey. The gap has not changed in the last 2 laps.
Now, we don't talk about, we are at a super speedway, technically, with the 1.5 mile nature. But, we've seen the bumper come out in different scenarios, not so much in ERSCA, Brandon, but if that's the only way by, do you kind of give a little bit of a tap in the center and kind of get the guy up the track a little bit? Do you do that if you're in the 95, if it comes to it?
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to move the guy in front of him as long as it's a clean move. You don't want to wreck anybody, and unfortunately, that's the risk you take when you make contact with somebody's back bumper to try to get them out of the groove and move them up out of the way. But we know that these guys can be aggressive, especially in the late stages of this race, given the opportunity.
Yeah, this is 3 laps to go now, and you can see the 95 drop back, but he got to the throttle much quicker through the center, but I think he got to it a little bit too early because that lost him second. Here comes right to the inside down the back straightaway.
The attempted block down the back straightaway from Josh Adams. Now Chris Wright to his inside of the 24 machine. And look out, he drifts up just a little bit there on corner exit. The 24 trying to gain the momentum, and Scott Crump loves what he's seeing in his rear view now. This allows him to pull away a little bit.
Or does it? Because it's still a 2-car length lead with 2 laps to go. 3 miles here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Adams is trying to hold on for second. He's trying to go for the win, but I feel like the 24 is the fastest of the 3. Just doesn't have a way to get there as we come to the white flag next time by.
The 95, nothing for him quite yet. He had the battle for Chris Wright. Now they come off of turn 4. Barney's got the white flag in hand. White flag flies, 1 lap to go from Las Vegas.
Now that 24 is absolutely stock on the back bumper, looking low, looking high. Both of them are about 0.2 of a second off of your leader. Entering 1, next flag will end the race. Here we come into 1 and 2. Crump still with a decent lead.
Crump shooting down the back straightaway now. No company from Josh Adams quite yet, says he zigs and zags down the back straightaway down into turn 3 as Adams tries to give it one more shot.
Uses the
Will
bumper.
he get there? Not quite able to get there this time off of turn 4. It's going to be Scott Crump winning at Las Vegas.
Scott Crump, and it looks like the 95 will hang on for second. Chris Wright dead sideways through the grass for third. What a race, what a finish, Brandon.
What a finish it was. Scott Crump hanging on late in this race. A late race caution, the first caution of the night, and the only caution of the night, coming with just about 30 to go. Scott Crump managed to do what he needed to do off this restart. These guys were all so close, within about 2 car lengths at most that whole run, and I'm sure he's going to be more than happy to burn it down here on the front straightaway.
Yeah, we saw it. We'll go check out the replay just a little bit here on the screen. You can see the 95, he got to the back bumper. He actually did make contact with the back bumper of the 51 right there. Gave him a shot. You just saw just a tiny bit of traction loss from the 51. Not enough to get him sideways or wreck him, luckily. But it did open the door for the 24 to nearly get in the grass and potentially, take advantage of that. But we are going to step aside for a brief moment here and get these guys, readied up before the post-race interview. So please stay with us. We'll be right back here on Sim TV. All right, we're back here on Sim TV after a great race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Before we do get into the post-race show, I'll just pop up the results on the screen for you guys. It's Scott Crump with the fabulous win here in really exciting fashion over Adams and Wright, who were right there. Lytle did fall off in the last couple laps. Gerald Campbell, Adam Pettit, Joe Francis, Kenny Lowry, Kyle Hanshaw, and Chuck Sweeting, your top 10. Your next page of results: Johnny Parham, Damien Leininger, Kyle Lowry, Nick Massey with 14th, Johnny Thomas, our in-car driver, 15th, Josh Neal in 16th, Tyler Riggs in 17th, Brian Dorsey, Patrick Gasper, and Sean Dias. And then your last page of results here: Isabella, Lafferty, Hill Jr., Key, Zishandur in 25th, Dylan Thomas back to 26th, lost him on connectivity issues, Brent Thomas, Chris Worrell had a great run, lost him earlier as well, and then Zach Patton shotgun on the field here tonight. But I think Brandon does have our third place finisher here of Chris Wright in the booth for an interview.
Managed to catch up with Chris Wright down here, and Chris, you come home with a third place finish here tonight. A hard fought battle here at the end of this race. How are you feeling?
The start was good. Just trying to save tires. Once we took off on that last restart, and those three were kind of just being super aggressive, I just kind of sat there and did what I did all race and hoped I had something at the end.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, coming down to the end of this race, what was your mind going through? What was going through your mind in that last restart?
Just trying to take off and get good speed. That was the only caution of the race, and restarting from fourth was going to be a struggle. And I was able to get down in line, and I tried to go after it for about a lap, and then I backed way off. I just ran hard enough to stay there. Ultimately, that's what let me catch back up at the end. I think we were definitely the best car at the end of the race. I just couldn't get around Josh.
Well, you had a good run tonight, man. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or shout out to?
Yeah, all my teammates at RRM, Josh and Nick and Damien and Brandon, all those guys over there. Brian and all the guys at Wingman Sports, Chairgating, all the guys on the podcast. We got the big race coming up next week, and I'll be driving the Chairgating car, Belly Up Sports, and you guys for doing the...
Awesome job tonight, Chris, and congratulations on your podium finish.
All right, thanks. Hopefully it was fun to watch.
Absolutely. I do believe that Corey has now caught up with second place finisher Josh Adams.
All right, Josh, very nearly a back-to-back, but, it's about a car length short. Great green flag run for you guys here tonight. Tons and tons of strategy, and you seem to have the strategy, pretty well played out if that thing stayed green the whole time.
Oh, yeah, just one caution bit us tonight. I think I had the gap on those guys behind me on the same strategy, and it was just going to be a matter of time before I got to the leader, I think. I think I could have held him off behind me. I just want to point out, you guys usually call me the short run guy. I think I did pretty good on the long runs tonight.
Yeah, you definitely had it made, man. You had that strategy. But, it came down to the short run there. It came down to about 15, 20 lap to go. You saw you couldn't really make a move because you had the 24 right behind you. What was kind of the mindset those last 10 laps, kind of being almost boxed in a position, if you will?
I wanted to try an outside move on Scott because I saw Chris do it on Tate and thought it might work. But, I didn't want to do that and lose grip or something and give up my shot at second or possibly the lead. So I tried to stay in line and just maybe force Scott into a mistake or just hope he made one. He made a couple, but he ran a good race and was able to stay ahead of me.
Yeah, he was. Just by giving him a little bit of a shot to the bumper there in the middle, 3 and 4, not enough to get him up the track, but still a good second place finish heading into North Wilkesboro. Final race of the regular season. Who do you want to give a shout out to for another great run here tonight?
Gave him a little bit of bump, but I didn't want to do anything to wreck him. Sometimes it goes bad with just the smallest thing. But my sponsor, Protect, Wingman Sports, Brave Like Wyatt, you guys for the broadcast, you do a fantastic job. Can't wait to watch it. My teammates, like I said, Chris is a little upset with me with that little bit of contact we had, but I think we raced pretty hard, and I guess it was unfortunate, but it was a pretty good race throughout.
It was, man, and we'll catch you next week at the Retro North Wilkesboro. So congrats again, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.
And now Brandon has caught up with the winner of tonight's race. The number 51 of Scott Crump pulls it into victory circle.
Yeah, down here, he's out of the race car. Now your winner here from Las Vegas, Scott Crump. And Scott, man, how you feeling tonight after this victory?
Man, a little bit out of breath. And, my heart was beating there. I was driving as hard as I could.
Driving as hard as you could. Those last 30 laps or however long that last green flag run was after the only caution of the night, you guys were within about 2 car lengths from each other at most that whole run. What was going through your head?
I was just trying to hit my marks and get a good run off, not push up too much, don't destroy that right front, and just hold on.
Scott, overall, a fantastic race for you. You held on, you were good on the long runs, and you were good on that short run where it needed accounts. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or give a shout out to for your performance tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor, Stay Tuned Sports. They've been with me for most of the year, and look forward to last 6 races here, and also get a shout out to my team, Lowline Racing. They've been great.
Well, awesome job tonight, Scott. Congratulations on your victory, and hopefully we'll be talking to you on the podium here in the next couple of weeks.
All right, thank you.
Anybody to race?
All right, that is our post-race show here on Sim TV. Again, it was the Black Flags Matter 200 for the ERSCA PristineAuction.com series. And again, one more race to go in the regular season next week at North Wilkesboro. You don't want to miss that. 9 o'clock Eastern, 9:30 Eastern time rather, we'll be here. Of course, like, subscribe, and follow Sim TV. Check out the website. Buy stuff from the Sim TV store. A lot of good things happening here with the channel, both current day and soon to come in the future. But again, Brandon, another great race here at Las Vegas. We saw. Any final thoughts?
Shout out to all these drivers out here. Clean racing all around. Of course, one caution tonight. Nearly a caution-free race. This is, something that we all look forward to in a league. And good racing, good strategy all around. So, props to all these drivers and their crews out here.
All right, indeed, that is the sentiment. So again, signing out of the booth here on Sim TV is Corey Silva and Brandon Kreutz. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
Good racing, good night. We'll catch you next time.